It's everything, man. It is the separator. The one thing that most of the NBA players or athletes that I work with struggle with is confidence. You wouldn't think that if they're the best
in the world. Yeah, so the best in the world struggle with confidence
all the time, man. Like my NBA players, my friends, like they'll hit me like, "What, man? What's going on? Like I lost it." I'm like, dude, you're one of the highest paid NBA players, one of the best players in the world, and you're struggling with confidence, mindset, the mental game, the tools, the skills that you build are more important than the physical, especially when you're at that level. Like Kobe, for example. Kobe and Jordan would always, one thing that they did which separates them, and I teach my players is, you visualize the game before you step out there, how you want it to happen. Just like you would step into a boardroom or you step on stage before you give a talk, you visualize it. You see yourself hitting all the spots. If you play it in your mind, you've already done it before. So when you step out there, you already know the steps you're going through. But the other point, to take it to another level, is they would also visualize when something happened. Like, if you were visualizing this podcast before, you would visualize it, the computer shutting down and going off. Like, how do you manage and how do you thrive through a storm? So Kobe and Jordan would see themselves turning the ball over or missing jump shots. How do you take that difficult time and how do you pivot it for your success? So the best of the best will do both of those. And mindset tools, they get a bad rap because you can't physically see the growth of them. I mean, like the basketball skills, or if somebody's trying to lose weight or gain muscle, you can physically see that, but in the mind you can't. And it's the analogy is like, well, okay, if you're going to brush your teeth one time, your teeth are never going to be clean. I mean, it's just that one time. If you're going to do these mental tools one time, it's not going to have lasting impact on you. But the ones who develop their tools, and I have a bunch of mindset tools that I'll give to the players depending on which area that they're struggling in. And then they'll have this sheet that they're able to go through. Maybe it's their highlight reel that they have to watch. Maybe it's a cue word that they need to use. Maybe it's eliminating the self-doubt, like whichever ones they need. And they know
what's a cue word, by the way?
So a cue word, like that movie Inception, if you know that movie where there's that top spinning and it kicks them back into a level of a dream. So a cue word kicks your subconscious back into the level that you've tied it to. So I'll have players tie a word, choose a word, you can choose any word. My word's unshakable. One of my players, Norm Powell, his word is process. So he's thinking about the process. So when the storm arises, which it will, you're able to say this word and it kicks you back into the level of, okay, everything's okay. I know I'm confident. Like, you know you're good.
Folks, before we start this episode, if you could do one thing, would you please hit that subscribe button? It really helps us out.
I want to kind of do the do-do-do. And we're back. Kick those tires and start that fake fire. I sound extra cool today because I am suffering from a little bit of a cold. But there's nothing cool about our next guest. He's hot. Also, because we both share a common sponsor. Today is like a Chili Sleep massive endorsement because David, Nurse, and Ryan Bethea, both proud Chili Sleep partners, are combining forces today. And we figured, why not get together? He is a dear friend. He has coached some of the most elite athletes in the world. He is a best-selling author. And he somehow was available to come join us on a last minute notice today. So I don't know what else to say other than please welcome one of the ultimate privileges that you get to do when you host your own podcast. You get to have your friends on sometimes, and that's awesome. It's also helpful when your friends are world record holders and elite performance coaches. So without further ado, please welcome the one, the only David Nurse to the virtual, pretty much non-existent campfire.
I can feel it burning. But you know what? I slept so well last night on the chili pad that I don't even feel the heat from the fire that's burning on the campfire. And you know why I'm on here today, Ryan? One, because I love you. And two, because I got 2.5 hours of deep sleep on that chili pad.
That's it? 2.5 hours. Or you mean 2.5 hours in addition to the REM?
Deep. Yeah. Deep's the key. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Deep sleep. For those wondering, the chili pad, well, actually, and the new Doc Pro is going to be pretty epic, pumps cool water into a sheet you place on your bed, which lowers your body temperature, should you so choose, and gets you into a deep REM, deep sleep that may or may not help you restore your entire soul and entire life. It's pretty cool.
See, you even make ads sound really cool. Like you could sell me a can of mayo and just speak it to me like I think it's like the best thing and I need that can of mayo.
You mean like OJ mayo?
I mean, OJ Mayo, the basketball player who just vanished and disappeared somehow.
Where is OJ Mayo? I've wondered that. He was at USC when I was there, and I haven't heard from him since. Not that we were friends. I'm just curious, like, what happened?
You need to do a show on the players that just dropped off the face of the earth, like Steve Francis. Where did he go? Or Gilbert Arenas. What happened to him? OJ Mayo. They're like hot, super good, and then they're just gone. I don't know. Good question.
Gone. Well, let's focus on the here and the now. We're going to do a little shorter episode today because, let's be honest, that's what the fans are asking for. Psych. No, they're not. But really, I want to do an episode that's a little more to the point today, because why not? And hold on 1 second. My AirPods are saying they're connecting, and that's not good. Can you talk for me?
Yes. Can you hear me? AirPods.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay. I don't know why my AirPods were going after. David, tell us one of the coolest parts about being a performance coach.
One of the coolest things about being a performance coach is being able to help people in what they have been God-given abilities to do. So literally, think about this. The best players in the NBA, some of the best players in the NBA, this is the top athletes in the world, like they come to me to be able to help them. And it's very flattering to be able to do that, to be able to have an impact on them. And it's a big weight too. This is their livelihood. This is millions of dollars on the line. And it's funny too, is growing up, it's like all I wanted to do was play in the NBA. And I poured every waking hour, moment, minute into being able to play in the NBA. And obviously having like a 2-inch vertical leap and being 6'2", and a lot of other things I'm going to uses didn't quite happen. But what is better than playing in the NBA is when these players come to you for advice. So I would say that's the coolest thing. And there's just a lot of like being able to see what goes on behind the scenes is really cool too. Like people don't know. They'll see NBA players, or they'll see performers on stage. They'll see whatever it might be, and they'll think, man, wow, he's just really gifted. Yeah, they've got talent, but the work that goes on behind the scenes is incredible. The unseen hours that these people put in. Like I had one of my players, Domantas Sabonis, he plays for the Kings now. During COVID time when the world shut down, this guy, he's an all-star this time, big-time contract. He comes out to LA, and we find these old warehouse gyms, Jewish community centers with like one hoop and no net, and we get in the gym every morning, 7 a.m., every single morning. Nobody sees that. He didn't need to do that. He's made all this money. Like, that's what I call insatiable drive, and it's the drive in the unseen hours when it doesn't really, like, nobody's going to know. But that's the key. That's the difference maker of seeing this. You have the talent, you have the insatiable drive, and then you just do it with relentless consistency day after day after day when things don't even feel like they're going to move anywhere. Like all of us in our life, like we have great examples. We're trying to grow something here and it just seems like stagnant. But the ones who just keep going and going and going and going, like the Energizer bunny, the ones who will succeed. And that's like some of the coolest stuff to be able to see behind the curtains in that.
How does one actually get to a place where they can coach NBA players? I'm assuming you have to have a pretty good shot yourself.
That I do. That's the only thing I could do was shoot. So I figured after getting cut from a second division team in the northern Spain Basque region, more like a Will Ferrell semi-pro joke of a league. So Ryan, literally, man, I'm thinking I'm playing in the NBA at this point. I still think I'm playing in the NBA. I'm a second division in Spain. I get cut, sent home, told I wasn't good enough to even play in that joke of a league. So basically all my hopes and goals and dreams turned upside down, face rubbed in the dirt. And I had to think, man, like, what can I do? If I want to get in, like, what is my special ability? What is my lane? What can I do better than anybody else? And I could shoot a basketball. So I couldn't play any defense. I obviously couldn't dunk. I could shoot a basketball. So I had these basketballs custom made from China with this terrible leather, this line down the middle. I think I have one somewhere laying around here, but terrible leather made from China, sent out to the Oakland seaport. I jump in my car, drive 29 hours from Kansas City, where I'm living on my parents' recliner chair, and to the seaport to pick them up, put them in my car. I spend the next 5 years living out of my car, sleeping on friends' couches who didn't even know I was their friend, sleeping in well-lit Walmart parking lots, doing basketball camps to teach them the art of shooting, because I figured, hey, I'm going to make my way in. And the NBA is not going to come calling for me. They're not going to be, hey, David, you were a terrible basketball player. You thought you were good. You could shoot it. Like, we're going to give you a job. No. the phone's not going to ring unless you go start knocking on doors. So I went 5 years doing these basketball camps to make myself the best shooting coach possible so the NBA would come calling. Fast forward 5 years, I wake up in Melbourne, Australia. I'm doing a camp down there, and I have an email in my inbox. It says Brooklyn Nets shooting coach. And I thought it was spam. Like, I didn't know anybody from the Brooklyn Nets. So I clicked that box. I thought about, man, it's got to be spam. What is this? Somebody playing a cruel joke. I opened it up, and the next week, I'm the Brooklyn Nets shooting coach. I had made it into the NBA. 28 years old. I made my way in there. So wrapping back to your question is the players, they would listen to me because I could actually do it. And they knew I could do it at a high level. They would see me shoot. They saw my resume. Like, they would trust me because they knew I had this ability. I wasn't somebody going in there and telling them, hey, do this, although I've never even done it. Like, I've been able to do it. And then the biggest thing, though, even if you have this great ability to be able to teach and people will listen to you, man, it's all about trust. If the player does not trust you, it does not matter. And trust is built through just doing whatever. I would, if one of my players needed to get picked up from the airport, if they needed him to go get a carton of milk down at the grocery store, whatever it was, I would go over the top to show them that I would be there for them through anything. And that's how it develops trust. So having a skill set plus trust has allowed myself to be able to work with these players. And the coolest thing too, man, is the best of the best, they want to be coached. All of the best in any field are coached. I was just literally listening to a Hugh Jackman podcast, Wolverine, maybe one of the best actors in the world. You kind of look like him, actually.
You mean Hugh Jackman, right? Or he's just like...
Huge Jackman, yeah. But he has a coach. He's had a coach for years. The best of the best. They want to be coached.
So I just have to ask, what is the key to a great shot before I get off? What is the boil down? If you want to up your free throw, let's start with free throws, since most of us aren't sinking 3-pointers. What's the key to great free throws?
I can give you the short answer. Here's what I tell anybody. Watch Klay Thompson and try to do everything that he does. Klay Thompson has the best form in the NBA. Not Steph Curry. Steph Curry is an anomaly. He shot a zillion shots, so once you shoot that many shots, you can shoot like him. Watch Steph Curry. The biggest things, though, confidence, number one. You have got to believe that thing's going in. If you have any wavering thought of it not going in, you're probably not going to make it. The follow-through is so important, holding the follow-through. I tell players to stick it, just like a gymnast. They stick the landing with their feet, and they hold their follow-through. And there's a lot of other things in between, but if you can remember that, you should make maybe one more shot than you do already.
Yeah, so this I'm asking because Dave and I are going to go play horse after this and see what we can do.
A lot of money.
A lot of money for horse, man. So have you primarily just coached NBA players? Have you been, because I know you work with a like broader sort of psychological mindset. Is it obviously you are actually, and I should go back to this, you have a record for 3-point shooting with one ball, right? Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, what was that? Just out of curiosity, how many 3-pointers did you make in what amount of time?
23s in 1 minute, one basketball. So basically the rebounder has to get it right out of the net without it hitting the ground. You want to hear a cool story on that?
Yeah, let me take a poll. Yeah, looks like they do. We've a cool story. Looks like cool stories have pulled very well here.
So here's a cool story on you make yourself the expert in something. So I was like, all right, I got to make myself the expert in shooting. This was while I was doing these camps. And like, what better than to have a Guinness World Record? Like, that validates me. So I shoot this video and I hit this record. Nobody else had anything close to this on YouTube. So I just put YouTube, like the Guinness World Record for most threes made. And like it started catching traction. It got on ESPN. ESPN played it. So this became the Guinness World Record for threes in a minute. I never really had it done with Guinness, so it wasn't really official. A couple years later, I get an email from Guinness that says, this is not an official record. We were not there to view it. You're going to have to do it again and have us there. Dude, that's all I needed to hear. If Guinness was going to seek me out and tell me that's all I needed to hear for it to be a record.
I love it. Will you be attempting any other records anytime soon?
If you can think of a record, I will attempt it.
Most story posts on Instagram in a 24-hour period.
Already have it. I'm going hard. I'm posting this right now. We're actually live.
We are live right now. That's awesome. So I want to ask you, so have you worked with athletes in other sports besides basketball?
Yeah, not as much. I've worked with a few baseball pitchers and a few golfers, which is...
Oh, golfers. Okay. I'm asking because I'm curious about the whole mindset thing. Because when I was at USC, Pete Carroll was big on the inner game of tennis. And just that mental mindset. And it's funny because, you hear rumors, and maybe you can tell me this is true, that like Kobe would take mental free throws and take mental shots. And I feel like mental game is something that's like in golf, it's widely accepted because it's literally you versus the ball. No one else is there. And it's literally something that you could do 10 minutes ago. Suddenly you can't do. But how big a deal is the mental game? I know we all know it matters to some extent, but I'm curious, just from what you do and the multiple sports you've coached, like how vital is this mental mindset? And is this something that like athletes now are paying way more attention to?
It's everything, man. It is the separator. The one thing that most of the NBA players or athletes that I work with struggle with is confidence. You wouldn't think that if they're the best
in the world. Yeah, so the best in the world struggle with confidence
all the time, man. Like my NBA players, my friends, like they'll hit me like, "What, man? What's going on? Like I lost it." I'm like, dude, you're one of the highest paid NBA players, one of the best players in the world, and you're struggling with confidence, mindset, the mental game, the tools, the skills that you build are more important than the physical, especially when you're at that level. Like Kobe, for example. Kobe and Jordan would always, one thing that they did which separates them, and I teach my players, is you visualize the game before you step out there, how you want it to happen. Just like you would step into a boardroom or you step on stage before you give a talk, you visualize it. You see yourself hitting all the spots. If you play it in your mind, you've already done it before. So when you step out there, you already know the steps you're going through. But the other point, to take it to another level, is they would also visualize when something happened. Like, if you were visualizing this podcast before, you would visualize it, the computer shutting down and going off. Like, how do you manage and how do you thrive through a storm? So Kobe and Jordan would see themselves turning the ball over or missing jump shots. How do you take that difficult time and how do you pivot it for your success? So the best of the best will do both of those. And mindset tools, they get a bad rap because you can't physically see the growth of them. I mean, like the basketball skills, or if somebody's trying to lose weight or gain muscle, you can physically see that, but in the mind you can't. And it's the analogy is like, well, okay, if you're going to brush your teeth one time, your teeth are never going to be clean. I mean, it's just that one time. If you're going to do these mental tools one time, it's not going to have lasting impact on you. But the ones who develop their tools, and I have a bunch of mindset tools that I'll give to players depending on which area that they're struggling in. And then they'll have this sheet that they're able to go through. Maybe it's their highlight reel that they have to watch. Maybe it's a cue word that they need to use. Maybe it's eliminating the self-doubt, like whichever ones they need. And they know
what's a cue word, by the way?
So a cue word, like that movie Inception, if you know that movie where there's that top spinning and it kicks them back into a level of a dream. So a cue word kicks your subconscious back into the level that you've tied it to. So I'll have players tie a word, choose a word, you can choose any word. My word's unshakable. One of my players, Norm Powell, his word is process. So he's thinking about the process. So when the storm arises, which it will, you're able to say this word and it kicks you back into the level of, okay, everything's okay. I know I'm confident. Like, you're good. So it's really hard, man. It's really hard to, like, it's easy to talk about all this stuff. It's easy to go through this, but once like the speed of the game or the speed of life, or you're on stage and like you can't remember what you're going to say, like that, it sucks you under. So you have to have something in this word, or even I have guys will snap their fingers. So SNAP, SNAP, stands for stop, notice, assess, pivot. What's going on? The storm's going. Boom. Stop. Okay. All right. And notice. All right. I'm noticing what's going on. I'm assessing the situation. Why is this happening? Now I'm going to pivot. Now I'm going to take what I just learned in that moment, that split second. The best of the best can do that within a split second, that snap, and then pivot on to the next direction. But without these tools, we're kind of just guessing. It's like anything that you're trying to grow. If you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, you're trying to grow a podcast, if you don't have your system and your process, which are these mindset tools, you're just continually guessing when you go out there.
So you're saying these players will actually visualize failure?
Yeah, absolutely.
In addition to success, like they'll actually imagine themselves in the scenario where something goes wrong. So for my golf game, and asking for a friend here, say you have just really had a bad iron shot. Your iron game's been terrible lately. You might actually visualize yourself hitting a few bad shots and then seeing yourself hitting a great shot right after it. Is that
But here's what I would say. I would say visualize yourself. Yeah, you can. Or visualize yourself hitting those bad shots and then asking yourself the question, are you okay? Like, are you okay with that? Most people will let that when they say, hey, don't visualize yourself hitting a bad shot, because that's what they don't want to have happen. And when you don't want to have something happen and you fear the outcome, if that happens, that's when it's going to happen. That's when people melt down. But if you visualize yourself hitting those bad shots and, man, I'm okay. Like, if I hit this bad shot, screw it. I can hit it out of the rough. It'd be a better angle. Then you take that pressure, you alleviate that pressure that you put on yourself, and now you're okay with that.
So you've worked with elite athletes. This is widely accepted. Bottom line for the average person is like, okay, David, you've convinced me. I need to work a little bit on my mental game. What's the basic first baby step? Would you say, is it just visualizing success and whatever you're doing ahead of time? Is it taking 10 minutes? Do they need to buy David Nurse's 2 bestsellers to learn these secrets? Give them a little teaser.
Yeah, all the books, sign up for the coaching course. No, man, you can visualize it. But I think that's even a next step. I think the first thing you can do is you can just write out the story that you're voting for yourself, the affirmations. I think affirmations are so powerful, and actually writing those out. So put this in your morning routine. It'll take you 2 to 3 minutes. You have a piece of paper and you just write out, who are you voting for yourself to be today? And you could say, hey, I'm David Nurse. I'm voting for myself to be the best-selling author, the best-selling in the world. Like, don't just go for average. Like, God did not make us to be average. God did not say, you know what, David, I'm going to create you. I want you to just kind of fit into the system. Just be average. Don't push the envelope. Not you. No, write these big affirmations. Make these big goals. Write down. I have them literally. I have my notebook right here, Ryan. This is great. We got this on video right here. These affirmations that I've written down that I look at every morning. I am unshakable. Something about I can't read my own writing backwards.
Here, I'll read them out for you. I was made to be great. I will be a New York Times best-selling author. I'm confident. I will speak in front of a huge audience, it looks like, or it just says 100,000 audience. Dang. I've about
loving my wife, putting Jesus first, going the extra mile.
Yeah, I should have read those. Those were on there too, folks. For those listening, he did have those. He does want to be a good husband.
Yeah. So that's the most powerful first step that you can take, because the story that we tell ourselves, we have 50,000 self-talk thoughts. That's the average. 40,000, those 80% are generally accepted to be negative in all these studies that they've done. Like, why does that have to happen? Because we are just like literally wired by what the world tells us and just how we have grown up, how we've been raised to think worst case scenario, to think we aren't enough. So the only way to combat it is actually if you take action to it. It's not going to just happen. Like, people will ask me, do you just wake up, just be like full of energy all the time? We just made confident, made positive. I mean, part of it, but the more of it is actually working on it and believing in it, and then believing in like it. That it's so cool. And I know I'm kind of going off topic here, but that affirmation is the number one thing. But it's a great understanding to know, like, this is just literally borrowed time. Like, knowing that if you have your faith and hope and in Jesus, that you have a bigger picture to come 1,000 times better than here. So this, like, why stress? Why worry? Like, who cares? This is literally borrowed time. God's up there just looking down at me. He's like, David, man, it's all that you're doing, all that you're growing, speaking books. Like, that's cute, no, David, but really, come on now. So, like, yeah, it's great to have impact, but it's also, you don't have to put that pressure, that crazy pressure upon you.
We have a similar, I guess you brought up God, so we might as well get into it a little bit. That's a good fitting subject to finish on. God and you had similar career paths, right? Teaching, his goals, he was a speaker, big on book, big best-selling book, New York Times best-selling author, 100,000 times over. And I think he was affirming too. He was constantly like, you're loved, I'm well pleased, lots of affirmations there. So no, actually I think I love that about you, because it's probably your mental prosperity and thriving curriculum is probably inexorably intertwined with your faith, and the idea that you can hype yourself up, you can tell yourself you're awesome because you are rooted in your identity and who you believe God made you to be. And that's I'm actually when you write down these big goals, because I gotta be honest, I bristle a little bit sometimes. It's like, on one hand, Scripture says, right, God will provide exceedingly and abundantly more than we could ever hope or imagine. So we usually are the limiting factor, because we go, God can't fix this, or he hasn't seen my swing, but on the other hand, it's like, I sometimes look at like the things we're affirming, and it's like, ooh, are those like, to what end? Why do we want to be a New York Times bestselling author? Why do we do that stuff? And I love that you're hinting at too. It's, you can put those big audacious goals, but those are just things in of themselves, right? None of that matters if it's not really for a bigger purpose, right?
Absolutely. Like, you don't put your hopes in these goals. Like, that doesn't bring you your joy. And it's one of the hardest things for people to see. And you even see, like, we know really, really successful people that are miserable because they don't have contentment. Contentment is found through Jesus. There's no other way that I have ever seen that to be content, where you don't worry about, like, man, if I make another book and it doesn't sell one copy, like, am I still going to be content in who I am? Yeah, I am. Sure, it will suck. I'll be devastated about it.
Marketing team is going to have some words in the marketing team.
Totally. But it's the contentment in knowing who you are. That's why I feel it's so important before anything else, before even knowing your why. All the Simon Sinek start with why. No, you start with who. You know who you are at the core before. That builds a foundation, your self-awareness before anything else matters.
All right, last question here, because you and I, obviously, we're just going to trade being on each other's podcasts for the first. We'll always have an audience of one with each other. It's going to be great. Yeah, now, many of our viewers may not or may know this if they follow David Nurse's prolific Instagram. He is married to objectively, one of the best looking women in the entire Southern California region. I'm in Northern California. I haven't traveled enough up there to know that. So Taylor's amazing both inside and out, and so we are curious for those of us who asking for a friend, for those of us who perhaps are unattached or whatever, looking for their person, any tips on the mental game for how to go track down and find God's best for you? Because I will say your world record is impressive, but how you convinced her to put up with you is beyond. I mean, that's the big win right there. That's your next book, right?
Hey, I'm planning on writing a book about that. How I got my dream girl, something like that. No, man.
How I got your dream girl.
How I got your dream girl. You missed out. That would be hilarious. You know what? Like, I don't think there's like a secret sauce to it, other than, and this is going to sound like a terrible answer, but it's really like actually being so comfortable in your own skin, being completely yourself. Yes, I got that meeting with Taylor because I acted like I wanted to get into acting, which is the best acting job. But from there on out, I couldn't act at all. And if you are not completely comfortable in who you are when you're meeting this person, you're going to have to be putting up a front your whole entire life. And I'm also really big too on making like being really picky. Like, that can come off as a bad way, but you should be super picky. You're going to be with this person for the rest of your life. This is the biggest decision you will ever make. And if there's anything that like you guys like, it might be a red flag, like, you got to get out. It's not for you. God has made the exact right person for you, and you will find that. But the reason people don't find it is because they settle. And that's the biggest tragedy there is, settling, because you think you can't find anything better. So be very comfortable in your own skin, and make your list. Make your list of top 5 non-negotiables, and don't waver.
Check it twice. Find a girl who's both naughty and nice. Sorry, that was inappropriate.
When you're married. Naughty when you're married. There you go.
When you are married. All right, I don't want to let you off the hook here without telling us what is do you have a crazy, embarrassing, or scary story from your career working with professional athletes? I think I'd lean more towards embarrassment would be kind of fun. I'm curious if you've ever had anything crazy, humiliating happen in the course of your elite athleticism career.
Man, I would have to think about that. I'm sure I have a lot of those, to be honest with you. I know one that jumps to my mind right now with working with NBA players. So when I was coaching with the Nets, so I think I'm this like hot up and coming young coach, man. I know it all. I got all this great stuff. This 9-time All-Star, Joe Johnson, who was on the team, he asked me to give him a more workout. And I'm like, dude, great. Yeah, of course. You kidding me? Like, I'm going to be able to help 9-time All-Stars. Like, my stuff is that good. So we do this workout, and I'm giving him all my cool stuff, like just double dribbling between the legs, tennis ball, everything that looks cool. Like, Instagram would love this stuff. And you see it on Instagram. And I put him through an hour, and he's busting his butt, man. He's sweating. And I was just like, yeah, conquered Joe Johnson. I can do anything on court. And he's shooting free throws for the cool down, and he calls me over to the free throw line. He says, hey, kid, come over here. Now, when anybody calls you kid and you're the coach, probably not a good thing. So I go to him. He's like, man, everything we did there has nothing to do with helping me in the game. That was literally a waste of an hour. He said something like that with a lot more different words in there and everything. I'm doing the edited version. But it hit me like a ton of it. I was like, wow, okay, he just put me in his place. I thought I was this awesome guy. It was all about me. Look at me. And it really, really helped me realize that anything that I'm doing is not about what I get. Like, it's not to shine my light. It's to shine the light on the person I'm working with. And if a coach or a teacher is ever trying to shine the light on themselves, you're with the wrong person, because it's not about you. And that's what I realized, like, okay, like, what does he need? I should ask Joe, like, hey, man, how do you want to get better today? Like, simple question, like, how do you want to improve? And yeah, it's an embarrassing. I know there's many more embarrassing moments.
Well, we'll have you back to humiliate yourself. That's definitely on the. And I'll go back onto your podcast. So
yeah, I could do a long story on how many times I've done connecting the wrong way. And I've learned like how to actually genuinely connect because I've done it the wrong way. I literally got fired from the Nets because of that. Like, it was one guy that I forgot to stay connected with. I'd always stay connected with these guys that I met at NBA Summer League. And he was the assistant coach for the Atlanta Hawks. And he asked me a favor, simple favor, to make a connection to the Philippines for one of his players that was going to go play over there. Totally didn't do it. Totally forgot about him, spaced on it. And when in the Nets, at the end of the year, we got a new head coach. Who do you think that head coach was? Exactly. From the Atlanta Hawks. So I knew the writing was on the wall. Then I doubled down, Ryan. I doubled down on how bad it was. This is something you should never do. You should never throw up text like long novel to somebody, especially if you don't know them well. Do not do that. It's terrible. And I did just that. Like, after the first day on court, I wrote like, oh man, it's so great being out here with you this year with like both player development. This is great. This is going to be awesome working for you. And it was long. And afterwards, after I'd gotten fired from that, he also was friends with Jeremy Lin, because he coached Jeremy Lin, who's a friend of mine. I asked Jeremy, I was like, because I thought I was going to be in because he knew Jeremy. And Jeremy's like, did you write him like a 10-page text? Like, it was overkill. So anyways, there's many other ones like that, but
short and sweet, folks. So, and David still texts me long though, but that's okay. Yeah. So that's different.
It's different. You can't fire me.
Yeah, I can't fire you. You're not. You're tenured. You're tenured in my heart, David. So. Well, folks, this is part 1 of Camping with David Nurse, and we appreciate you joining us. A special shout out to Chili Sleep. Todd, we love you. Thanks so much for supporting our shows, and congrats on all the success you're having. It's been awesome. And to my camping listeners, I know there are dozens of you around the world. And I just want to say, we made it to 25 episodes. This is episode 26. So in the words of our elite performance coach, we are just going to keep on grinding on and see what happens. So David Nurse, best-selling author, elite performance coach, Guinness World Record holder, author of 2 books. What is your latest book, David?
Breakthrough. First one's Pivot and Go. Second one is Breakthrough.
You got to pick up these books. David is one of the best out there. Also, here's the thing. There's a lot of coaches out there. David is equally as loved by his players as he is effective, which I think is very cool. Lots of effective coaches, but few are loved as much as David Nurse, which is really cool. So check out these books, figure out how to bring the mental game to your game. And David, come back and camp with us when the bus is ready.
I'll be there. I will be there. Bring out the s'mores and I will come.
Well, God bless you, and God bless his most precious United States.
Thanks, brother.